Historical context of geographical naming practices. A. Colonial and imperial naming practices. Early colonization, 17th to 18th centuries. During the British Empire's expansion, new settlements in the Americas, the Caribbean, and other territories were often named after places in Britain. This practice was a means of reinforcing British cultural and administrative control. Examples include Boston, Massachusetts, and Kingston, Jamaica. Cultural and administrative continuity. Naming settlements with familiar British names helped to integrate new territories into the empire by promoting continuity of British legal, cultural, and administrative practices. B. Purpose and impact. Administrative control. The replication of names facilitated the extension of British administrative systems and laws into new territories, making governance more seamless. Cultural integration. Familiar names helped settlers and indigenous populations maintain a connection to British culture and identity. This was crucial for sustaining imperial dominance and control. 2. Emergence of sister cities. A. Development of sister city relationships, 20th century onwards. Formalization. Sister city relationships became formalized in the 20th century as part of diplomatic and cultural exchange programs. They were intended to foster international friendship and cooperation. Mutual benefits. Sister cities often engaged in trade, cultural exchanges, and collaborative projects, which helped to promote economic and cultural ties between cities across different countries. B. Predecessors to sister cities. Geographical naming practices. Before the formal sister city concept, the replication of names served similar purposes of maintaining cultural and administrative links. The practice was part of a broader strategy to extend British influence and control. Impact on British identity. The replication of names helped solidify the British Empire's cultural and administrative presence. However, post-war changes and the eventual decline of the empire led to the disruption of these connections and the reclassification of many territories. Impact on descendants of King George and the British Empire. A. Displacement and reclassification. Post-war displacement. The aftermath of conflicts such as the American Revolution and World Wars led to the displacement of British colonists and changes in territorial governance. Former British colonies experienced reclassification and loss of cultural ties as new political realities emerged. Cultural disruption. The renaming and reclassification of territories disrupted the historical and cultural continuity for descendants of British settlers. The severance of historical connections affected collective memory and identity. B. Legacy of naming practices. Cultural continuity. The original naming practices under the British Empire served to maintain a sense of continuity and control. The legacy of these practices continued to influence cultural and administrative structures even after the end of British colonial rule. Sister cities' role. In the modern era, sister city relationships aim to rebuild and strengthen international ties. However, they often do so in a context that diverges from the colonial naming practices of the past. Summary and relevance. A. Timeline and evolution. Colonial era. Replication of names reinforced British control and cultural integration. 20th century. Formal sister city relationships emerged to foster international cooperation. Post-war period. Displacement and reclassification affected British descendants and the legacy of imperial naming practices. B. Impact on historical and legal context. Identity and memory. The historical naming practices and their disruption post-war have had lasting effects on cultural identity and collective memory. Understanding this context helps to frame the broader narrative of displacement and the impact of imperial governance on descendants of King George and the British Empire. By incorporating these historical and geographical contexts, we gain a clearer understanding of how naming practices, the concept of sister cities, and post-war changes have shaped the experiences and identities of affected populations.